Lando Norris needed around 2 laps more than the 63 allocated for the Imola race to arguably beat Max Verstappen in a 1v1, which would have been a miracle of its own. This showed the myriad of issues the RB20 is facing, issues that might bring them problems further on in the season and potentially even lose them the Constructors Championship. The 2024 season is evolving into a three-way contest among Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari, as car upgrades have narrowed the performance gap between the teams to just 1 or 2 tenths. And while Verstappen and Red Bull remain strong favourites to win both championships, with over 2/3 of the season remaining, the recent improvements from Ferrari and especially McLaren have injected much-needed excitement into the competition. In Miami, Norris benefited from the safety car, but he and Oscar Piastri were poised to secure a front-row start for McLaren in Imola. However, Verstappen gained an advantage by getting a tow from Nico Hülkenberg, which proved more beneficial than the narrow gaps of 0.074 seconds and 0.091 seconds to the McLarens. Considering how challenging overtaking was at Imola, the roles of the hunter and the hunted might have been reversed, with Norris' late race pace demonstrating that Red Bull is now under real pressure. Does this mean Red Bull has been completely caught? Their struggles during free practice in Imola were evident, and while Norris' late surge was due to his excellent driving and smart tyre management, it was also influenced by Verstappen's hard tyres losing temperature. I think for the first 40 laps we were in a really good window and he would have managed the gap, said Red Bull team boss Christian Horner. After he came out, the gap dropped to 6 seconds, but he was able to hold it there. But Lando, whatever window they managed to get their tyres into, suddenly their car came alive, and it just showed how sensitive these tyres are to the different conditions. The recovery from Friday to Saturday was very strong, and what we managed to achieve on the medium tyre was very strong. I think we need to look at why were we weak in the second half of the stint, because it was only the second half on the hard tyre compared to Lando. Red Bull faced one of their most challenging weekends since the start of the year. The team introduced a new floor and front wing last weekend following their development plan. The new floor featured updates in the floor edge area and the fairing around the lower side impact structure, SIS. Specifically, the vortex generators below the inclined element were redesigned to push turbulence from the front tyres outward, preventing interference with the airflow under the car. Additionally, the SIS casing was completely redesigned, featuring a more pronounced step-shaped fairing. This new design, similar to solutions from McLaren and Aston Martin, creates a small channel that directs the wake of the front tyres towards the floor. The fairing now attaches close to the upper lip of the Venturi channel inlet, indicating that engineers aimed to split the airflow into 2 channels early on to maintain clear airflow to the rear of the car. The front wing saw significant changes as well. The last 2 flaps and the end plate were redesigned, with the 3rd and 4th flaps having an increased chord from their attachment point near the nose support to halfway along their length. This design increases the local load generated by the front wing at high speeds and improves airflow towards the bodywork. Changes to the end plate aim to increase the outwash effect, pushing air outside the front wheel to reduce drag. These updates were expected to enhance local downforce and improve high-speed performance. However, despite promising signs in FP1, the RB20 proved difficult to handle on Friday. Verstappen reported issues with the car's balance, experiencing oversteer during braking and understeer at the apex of slow corners, particularly during qualifying simulations when the car was light. The problems were attributed to 2 main factors: the mechanical setup and the track layout. The RB20 is designed to run at low ride heights with a stiff suspension setup, beneficial in fast corners like Villeneuve, where it stabilized the car and generated high downforce. However, this setup was less effective in slow corners and chicanes. The bumpy asphalt and high curbs required a softer mechanical setup to help the tyres reach their optimal operating window. Softening the suspension would allow the tyres to absorb the ground's roughness better, increasing friction and generating more heat. that's exactly what the technical team at Red Bull worked on between Friday and Saturday to improve the car's behaviour, especially at Acqua Minerale, and the team decided to give up a bit of aero-mechanical stability in fast corners to improve the way the RB20 absorbed the curbs. Moreover, they also adopted a slightly lower downforce rear wing to the one they used on Friday to increase their top speed, which they know could have been a right help during the race. As a direct consequence, the RB20 seemed a little less nervous on curbs during qualifying, but the stint on the hard tyres during Sunday's race showed that the problems had not completely been resolved. During the first stint on the medium tyres, Verstappen had no competitors. The RB20 behaved very well on the medium tyre and at a high fuel, despite having a stiffer mechanical setup than McLaren and competitors. This factor turned out to be a crucial advantage during the first stint, as it helped Max to keep the front and rear tyres into the right working window, avoiding overheating, which compromised Norris' first stint. However, when they fitted a harder compound on the RB20, the other side of the coin was shown. The car struggled a lot to wake up the fronts due to the lower friction generated on the tyre, with Verstappen suffering from understeer in all slow-speed corners. This problem kept on getting worse, as the Dutch world champion expressed after the race, "Yeah, I just couldn't really get the tyres to work. It just felt like they were not operating in the right temperature window, and that just got worse and worse. The last 15 laps for me was like driving on ice. They were not responding anymore, so that's something that we have to analyse." Having a look at the other side of the garage, Perez weekend is the confirmation that Verstappen really played a crucial role in Imola, and that the team must work to understand what didn't work and fix it in time for Monaco, where making the car work at high ride heights and with a super soft mechanical setup will be crucial to waking up the front tyres during qualifying. Even Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur believes the competition among the top 3 teams in 2024 will be intense and widespread, which is great news for Formula 1 and the championship. With the top teams finishing within 7 seconds of each other after 70 laps, it shows the competition is incredibly close, with less than 1/10 of a second per lap separating them, and the car setup and driver performance will be crucial factors. Although teams are still pushing to bring new upgrades, they are seeing fewer gains as the regulations mature. Vasseur said that development is now about fine-tuning small details, chasing improvements measured in hundredths of a second rather than larger gains. Ensuring these upgrades work effectively will be vital in the upcoming races. This is exactly the scenario that Red Bull warned about when it was enjoying its unprecedented dominance in 2023, winning all but one race, as it seemed like the Milton Keynes-based squad would remain unchallenged until 2025. Even earlier this year, it looks like Red Bull had done enough to keep rivals at arm's length with its boldly different RB20, but while Horner's words of caution were met with varying degrees of disbelief, that scenario might actually play out sooner than most observers expected. "You cannot take anything for granted, and we certainly don't," he pointed out. "We've won 5 out of 7 races, 2 out of 2 sprint races, and 7 out of 7 poles, but the margins are fine. Very fine, and in year 3 of these rules there is always going to be convergence. We are seeing exactly that. The look of the cars is converging, the performance is converging, and you can see more races like Imola with fine margins. Only Monaco will give us a clearer idea whether the problems in slow-speed corners have been actually solved, but for sure, qualifying will play a crucial role there, and the team will need to do the best work possible to improve this aspect, as qualifying will be crucial in the Principality. Beyond this, the full value of the package brought in Imola is yet to be discovered. As happened to McLaren when such a big package is introduced, it naturally takes time for the engineers to fully understand it and know how the car responds to the new bits. As a consequence, it'll be possible to evaluate the real progress only in the next 3 or 4 races, even though the flashes shown this weekend, only a 2/10 in qualifying and only 6 seconds behind Verstappen on Sunday, are proof that the taken path is the right one, and that once the full potential of the SF24 Evo will be unlocked, Ferrari will be there together with McLaren and Red Bull. The hook to Red Bull has taken place, and from now on all 3 teams will be pushing hard to end each race weekend on the top step on the podium. Do you think Red Bull will dominate this year like the last one? Let us know down in the comments below. We'll see you very soon in the next video.